For the past several years, there have been efforts to develop the potential of Hyde Square in Jackson Square in Jamaica Plain as a hub of Latino culture, known as the Latin Quarter. That's being reinforced by an effort to revive an earlier event in the same commercial center, the World's Fair. To tell us about the effort are two of the organizers, the event coordinator with the Latin Quarter World's Fair, Kelly Ransom, and the founder of La Gringa Loca Productions, Paloma Valenzuela. Thank you very much for being with us, Paloma.
Thank you so much.
Paloma, you grew up in the neighborhood. You probably went to one of these World Fair events going back more than 10 years. What was it like?
I have. So I've been in the neighborhood since I was a little girl, and I just remember going with my family, going with my parents and my brother, and I just remember the streets were blocked off. It was food trucks and music, and I'm Dominican American, so the community of Dominican residents and Latino residents there celebrating together. I remember sort of semi-recently, but not so recently, the live karaoke. So I remember going on stage and singing like a Lauryn Hill song. I just remember it was something I was always looking forward to every year.
Kelly, what about you? I mean, even if you didn't experience it directly.
Oh, I did.
Talk about how does this inspire what you're doing now?
So I grew up on the other side of Jamaica Plain. I grew up in Center South near the monument. And when I was growing up, I wasn't really allowed to go into what's known as the Latin Quarter now. It was sort of deemed unsafe by my family, and we just didn't go past the library pretty much. But when the World's Fair was happening, I used to get to go up there with my friends and dance in the streets and try all the food. And it was amazing to see this culture that was like basically in my backyard, but I had no idea it was there until I started going up into that neighborhood. And it was really impactful in my life.
Chris, the other thing I'm thinking about here, Paloma, is that you're a generation younger than the people who started the original World Fair. I mean, there's got to be something different about this new things you're trying to get going, right?
Definitely. I think just by way of knowing that the organizers are the ones that were just little kids when we went to it, and now we're the sort of organizing and putting things together. That I think already makes it different because it's coming from our perspectives, and kind of we're like really owning it because we're sort of asking for it to come back, and we're not just asking for it to come back, we're deciding to make it come back, and putting in the work. This one right here, putting in the work. So I think that it's going to have the same kind of energy, but sort of like a renewed energy.
Right, and to celebrate that it's a cultural district now. It wasn't a cultural district back then.
What's the difference?
So the Basque Cultural Council will designate certain neighborhoods that are really popular throughout the state, and they are sort of hubs for artists and creatives and small businesses. And it's really to empower artists in the neighborhood to partake in planning what the cultural district will look like. And it includes activities and events and all different kinds of things to bring the community together through arts. But it's also really a driver for tourism. It's trying to create neighborhoods that could be more of a tourist attraction.
Paloma, one thing I remember, I saw the Latin Spectacle 3 years ago around Hyde Square, and very accomplished performers, and yet this really reflected the neighborhood. I felt like the whole neighborhood was part of the show, really. How does that benefit the neighborhood to have that kind of a feeling when you live there?
I don't know. I just feel like whenever people ask me about, Jamaica Plain or the Latin Quarters, or people outside of the city that don't know it or have seen it in my web series or seen it in pictures, I feel like I can't. You have to be there to understand the community that is Jamaica Plain and the Latin Quarters. And
you shot that in your Pineapple
pilot,
right?
It was something that I really wanted to celebrate in the show because it's so special to me, and I think that once you're there, you feel it. Like people, we're a real community. Like we support each other, and we like really want to cultivate the community and keep it. You know what I mean? Like we want to preserve it and keep it, and it's something that's important to like really everybody that lives there. Right. So I think it's a really special place, and I always rep Jamaica Plain hard. So I love my neighborhood, and I think a lot of people feel that way.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Kelly Ransom from the Latin Quarter World's Fair and Paloma Valenzuela from La Gringa Loca Productions. Coming back to Kelly, you have an agenda for this event because you do want to help those people in the neighborhood, whether they live there, run businesses there, or kids growing up. Explain how this
Right.
is supposed to work.
So it will be, a great festival with music and art and food, but we really wanted to focus on making it beneficial and accessible to the businesses and the residents and the youth that live in the neighborhood. So we have a couple of initiatives that are new to this particular festival, but I've worked on events all over the city, and I don't see a lot of other event production people doing this. So one of the things that we are committed to is making it so if you have a small business in Jamaica Plain and you want to have a table at the event, we're not going to charge for that space. And that is not typical of most events. Most events will have a small charge. So we're going to start with outreach in the Latin Quarter, and those businesses will have, first come options, and then we're going to branch out into the other neighborhoods of JP. So they'll be able to come, maybe get some new business, meet some new people. Another thing that's really important to us is for the food vendors to come from Jamaica Plain. We do want to have a variety, but we are really going to work to invite food vendors in JP or food businesses, not even necessarily restaurants, to partake in the event. And if they want to, and they haven't before, we're running a training in July with JPNDC, where we're going to teach them how to apply for a temporary food license, which would allow them to vend food out at an event. And if they do come, we're going to cover their permit costs for that. And that can be expensive. And the training is going to be bilingual. We also see it as a potential revenue stream for them because they'll have experience of vending outside, so now they can go and do other events. We're also planning on hiring youth from the neighborhood to run our activities. We want to pay them $20 an hour. We're doing a lot of fundraising so that we can make that possible, but we want the youth to, ideally, maybe even, we're trying to figure out the logistics, but learn a skill like face painting or balloon twisting so that they can then have a revenue stream and they can go to other events and use those skills to be paid and have a little job.
Does that bring back memories, Paul? I mean, you ended up going to Emerson, becoming a video producer, but when you were a kid in the neighborhood, did this kind of thing help you put on that path?
Oh, that's interesting. I think that my experiences, in the neighborhood or just Boston in general have been a huge source of inspiration for me. So yeah, I think the people in the neighborhood or being from the neighborhood and then leaving the neighborhood to come back to the neighborhood kind of makes you realize how special an experience it was to have grown up there. And I'm sure everyone feels that way about their own neighborhood, which is totally true. There are so many special neighborhoods, but when you come back to the neighborhood where you grew up, it just becomes such a source of inspiration. As an artist, in my case, I think that for sure. I mean, my neighborhood, my city, and the experiences I've had have been a huge, inspiration for my writing and storytelling.
Kelly, this is still a work in progress. You need people to brainstorm some more, pitch in, to volunteer for things. You got a GoFundMe page, so if people want to jump on board, what's the best thing to do?
Check out our Facebook. It's Latin Quarter World's Fair on Facebook. We have an Instagram. We have a website, LatinQuarterWorldsFair.com. All of our fundraising, all of our GoFundMe stuff is up there. We're having a community meeting coming up at the Conley Library on July 22nd. For input from the community for what they'd like to see at the event. We really try to make that a reality. And then we're going to need volunteers. So the event is going to be on September 15th. It's the kickoff to National Latino Heritage Month in Boston and nationally. And it's going to be a lot of work, and we need a lot of hands and funds and creative energy.
And that's the special thing about it too, is it's not like some sort of it's someone else is doing it for us. We're doing it for ourselves, and that includes everybody who wants to be a part of it. Exactly. So that's what's special about it.
Thank you both very much, Paloma Valenzuela and Kelly Ransom.
Thank you.
Thank you.